Hello and welcome, or welcome back to the channel 12 Step Guide with Troy O. Today we are going to begin Step 8 in the Alcoholics Anonymous Big Book. That's the original first time Step 8 was revealed to us in the book. It is found in the chapter Into Action, which is 16 pages long. Into Action covers steps 5, step 6, step 7, step 8, step 9, step 10, and step 11. So that's important information. I want you to understand how this unfolds at an Alcoholics Anonymous meeting. That's the first place I was really exposed to the material. Certainly I could read it at home. If you're lucky to have someone explain the structure of the book, you have a better understanding where the steps are. If not, you start reading this chapter and may not realize you're going to cover that many steps, that's where the real directions are, especially in early recovery. As time goes on, you may become more familiar. If you're fortunate enough to find a video such as this and have someone help you understand a few things, it could really organize information. So there's a difference going into step 8 in what we'd call a big book meeting. You might go to a meeting that's an hour long, maybe it's an hour and a half long. First, we would read the chapter. If I were chairing the meeting, I've chaired plenty, I would explain. We're going to go around and read the chapter. Each person can read a paragraph. If you don't want to read, just say pass. And then afterwards, we would open it up for discussion. Now, in a step meeting, at least the first thing we would do is read what is step 8. So I'm going to get into, on the wall in the meeting, there's generally the steps. So first, what is step 8? So you have a basic understanding in advance that you may not have in your mind when you're reading it in the meeting. And so that's important, because if you don't have it in your mind, things could sneak by in a big reading. So, step 8, made a list of all persons we had harmed, comma, and became willing to make amends to them all. I emphasize that comma. I'd like for you to consider it a different way also. Made a list of all persons we had harmed, period. Became willing to make amends to them all. What I'm suggesting to you is step 8 really is a two-part process, and I'm going to explain that better as we progress today. So we'd get started with the reading, 16 pages, right? Ba, 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 and at some point we get to that particular section and no advance notice. Okay. So the last sentence of the previous, before we get to it, we have then completed step 7. So there's a clue. It's in squigglies, italics. We know that we completed 7. So again, seems simple enough. Made a list of persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. It's plain language, right? You see it on the wall. Okay. So here we go. Now we need more action, without which we find that faith without works is dead. Let's look at steps 8 and 9. So I want to teach just step 8 today, and really the first half of step 8. So we're not going to read the whole thing because uh, this combines step 8 and 9, and I'm going to get to that here. Why? So the next thing, again, after quite a bit of reading before this, we have a list of all persons we have harmed and to whom we are willing to make amends. We made it when we took inventory. We subjected ourselves to a drastic self appraisal. Now we go out to our fellows and repair the damage done in the past. We know that the second half of step 8 is beginning at that point, because if now we're going out to our fellows and repair the damage, or that kind of is 9, but the second half of step 8 and 9 kind of combine. We're going to get into that later. Anyway, right now I want to unpack what we just read. So let's look at steps 8 and 9. Okay. The first thing it tells me is we have a list of all persons we have harmed and to whom we are willing to make amends. We made it when we took inventory. So a timeout here, right? On the wall, it says made a list of persons we had harmed. Okay. But this is telling me go and get the list you've already made. Okay. So if you, like in the past, took a shot at doing a step 4 and all that, and that's great. You might have gotten to 8 and been a little confused because unless you had a real understanding of how to do it, you might be like, I haven't made a list yet. There's a real structure. We're going to get into it a little bit today. If you've seen the previous videos at step 4, you know what I'm saying. If you haven't, it really might be news to you. We already have our list. I'm not going to get into it anymore today, any more reading, because I want to make sure that we understand where this list came from, how we came about to have this list. So what I'd like to do first is hear from Bill and have him clear it up for us a little bit, and we'll just get into it and make sure we understand just where this list came from. So we're going to go over to Bill's story. Before we go over to Bill's story, there's a standalone statement here I'd like to read. It's in the same paragraph, and I'm reading out of the original book, Alcoholics Anonymous. It's page 88. If you have a newer book, it could be page 76, somewhere around there. So here's a standalone statement to consider. Remember, it was agreed at the beginning, this is in italics, we would go to any lengths for victory over alcohol. Is that news to you, whether you're new in the program or even an old timer? Remember, it was agreed at the beginning. What beginning? Where? What beginning? That's probably step 1. So, what part of step 1? It was agreed at the beginning we would go to any lengths for victory over alcohol. I'd like to suggest it was the part of step 1 when we accepted our alcoholism. That's when we became willing, in varying degrees, to do something about it. The hope is we go to any length. So if you weren't fully aware of that, this is a good opportunity to go back and strengthen up that willingness in that step, in those steps where he's letting you know now. Bearing in mind, we're going to take a minute here and look at when he did step 8, why this information could be pertinent early on. Others might be like, well, gee, I'm getting to this a couple of years into the program. It might have been nice to know before. So let's look at the time frame Bill used and understand this list, because that's the question, the list. So Bill's just got to the hospital. People that have seen earlier videos, I'm addressing the paragraph that I identify as track B or track 2. If you haven't seen the earlier videos, you're not going to know what I'm talking about. My schoolmate visited me. We know the schoolmate is Ebby T. How do we know that? It doesn't say it in the book. In 1955, there was a conference, and Bill introduced Ebby T and explained this stuff out. Apparently, it's known information. Ebby T was his sponsor for life, apparently. Ebby T had some problems along the way. You know what? So didn't I. Everybody doesn't have to, and maybe the better you understand the steps, the more you can address these problems. Maybe you don't have to have the problems I had. But we're going to look at, we're interested in this list now. We made it when we took inventory. My schoolmate visited me. He's at the hospital, maybe 10 days sober, and I fully acquainted him with my problems and deficiencies. We made a list of people I had hurt. There's step 8. Or toward whom I felt resentment. Well, that's step 4. I express my entire willingness to approach these individuals, admitting my wrong. Well, that's step 8. Here's a piece of information we'd like to know right now about this getting into step 8. Never was I to be critical of them. I was to write, that's to correct, all such matters to the utmost of my ability. So in treatment, 10 days sober, Bill's already got a step 8 list. He actually writes step 8 and addresses step 8 before step 4. Now that when he created the 12 steps, he changed that some. I think alcoholics, so we'll get into that in a bit, had more of a need to deal with some other stuff first. We got this unique ability to be pissed off maybe at everything and everybody, and you know, we're moving on here. So we have a basic understanding how this list came to be. The first half of step 8 is really all done in step 4. And that's why that one line read in a meeting of 16 pages and covering all these steps, Zumo, it easily missed. And that's why I've taken the time now to come back, if you haven't seen it, and even if you have seen the earlier videos, to refresh one's memory about how we got here, what's going on. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to move on up to that was page like 23 in the original book. It's different in the newer books, but now we're going to go up to how it works, page 79. Maybe it's page 66, just to reiterate a little bit about this list, how this list came to be. It's all covered in the earlier videos, but there's some information here that's important that we start to understand more, because we're moving towards also, after this, willingness. Now we're just making the list, but it does say all persons we had harmed, right? We start with all persons. We don't omit anyone in this list. But anyway, so in step 4, this was, of course, we realized that people who wronged us were perhaps spiritually sick. This is a mindset we're starting to get to just before making the list. This mindset's going to become important. as we progress. Though we do not like their symptoms and the way these disturbed us, they, like ourselves, were sick too. There's sick people in the world, alcoholic or not. We ask God to help us show them the same tolerance, pity, and patience that we would cheerfully grant a sick friend. Maybe that we'd like our shown to us too. When a person offended, we said to ourselves, "This is a sick man. How can I be helpful to him? God save me from being angry. Thy will be done." We're getting closer to this list. We avoid retaliation and argument. In Bill's story, never was I to be critical of them. It's a mindset. Hey, I said I was going to get better at these videos. If that hasn't happened for you at this point, lower your expectations. Things are going to improve exponentially, right? So these videos just got a lot better for you by making that one adjustment. So coming back to the reading, we avoid in step 4, building up to this step 8 list. I've covered this before. It's all in step 4. Go back and review those, but just covering the mindset here as we're addressing our list. We avoid retaliation or argument. We wouldn't treat sick people that way. If we do, we destroy our chance of being helpful. We cannot be helpful to all people, but at least God will show us how to take a kindly and tolerant view of each and every one. So this is the step 8 portion that you'd go back and look at in those, but referring to our list again, putting out of our minds the wrongs others had done. We resolutely look for our own mistakes. So that's in step 4 in the big book. We know it's step 8. Where had we been selfish, dishonest, self-seeking, frightened? And in these lists, I mean, we created all those at the last one in step 5. There's a download, but this is step 8 done in step 4. The list is how we came to get the list. Though a situation had not been entirely our fault, we tried to disregard the other person involved entirely. Where were we to blame? The inventory was ours, not the other man's. When we saw our faults, we listed them. We placed them before us in black and white. We admitted our wrongs honestly and were willing to set these matters straight. There's similar language that Bill used at the treatment center. He's getting his attitude straightened out. So jumping forward, second to the last paragraph of how it works, and all of them doing is supporting this claim that we already have our list. If we have been thorough about our personal inventory, we have written down a lot. We have listed and analyzed our resentments. We also analyzed our fears and our sex conduct. We have begun to comprehend their futility and their fatality. We have commenced to see their terrible destructiveness. We have begun to learn tolerance, patience, and goodwill toward all men. That's going to come in handy when we're moving on with the list of step 8. Even our enemies, for we look at them as sick people. It's going to be important. We have listed the people we have hurt by our conduct and we're willing to straighten out the past if we could. So that supports this statement in step 8. And I'm going over this because it can be a little confusing. You look at step 8 on the wall and you hear this, oh, do 1 step a year. Well, you think, or sometimes you may be 1, 2, 3 in the first year, and by year 2, maybe you get into inventory. But however, if you don't understand, step 8 is done in step 4. And Bill did this stuff in early recovery, began it even at the hospital. Well, the message you're receiving is convoluted. If you get the right information, and here it is written right in the book. Here it is written right in the book. I'm reading it to you. I'm not making it up. It makes perfect sense. Well, let's cover that a little more. Why on earth would we do it in step 4? Number one, because it's on the back end of our resentments, fears, and sex conduct. Bill did it the other way, apparently. He started listing his people he owed amends. But you know what? You can go in reverse and back it down to resentments as we're putting it all down on paper, looking at all of it, writing it down. There's a real way to do this. Just unlocking it. It's better if it's done early on. If I don't get to making amends for years, I've missed a lot. Maybe there's a reason why somebody keeps relapsing. This stuff's out there. The pain is there. Your subconscious knows that there's things I would have gotten to, could have gotten to, didn't get to because I didn't understand the process. Hence, 15 years later, one day, I come out with, what a piece of shit. Me, looking back, reviewing what I did at a certain time, I didn't have a clue that alcohol had just took away everything, and I didn't look at anything I didn't have to. There didn't seem to be some structure to do that. Well, yes, there is. And why is that? Because I wanted sobriety. I wanted peace of mind. I wanted those 9-step promises that we're going to look at here in a little bit of videos. People hear those real good. Well, there's a way to get there. They don't just happen on their own, and there's a slow way, and there's a faster way. Alcoholics can get into all kinds of unique jackpots and really manifest resentments in real complex ways. And we may have a lot of amends to make. There might be people in other 12-step programs that didn't experience that. They don't quite relate to. I got all these people that I burned. I say burned, I got over on. Certainly, there's people that literally got burned. But for the alcoholic, having to unwind those resentments, can see them real good, but dealing with the amends. Maybe people in some other 12-step programs can relate to this. Maybe they feel far more of a victim and they weren't out hurting others, and that may be the case. Well, if you can see that clear, you turn around, look at that road, and take a good look at that road. Maybe that's telling you something. Maybe that's where your real need is. You really need to deal with those resentments. Maybe it's letting go. Maybe it's forgiving yourself. You do the best you can with the whole process. Keep your mind open, because the list, it isn't going to lie to you when you're doing that 4 and you're making this list and running it through a sponsor. So you and the sponsor have a chance to really work this stuff out and really get that list so that it's a clean list of step 8. But once you have that list, you know how you got that list. You worked hard at it. You talked it over with someone else. Hopefully, this is happening more quickly for some and not the slow boat like I did, where I don't even know where these people are, much less make amends to them. But I can tell you this, I hurt people out there. People's lives were affected. They needed to understand what I did. They needed to hear from me, and they didn't. And I get that now. And I see what I missed and how I had an effect on people and how I could have had an effect on people in a different way. I see that. So, is there anywhere else we might look for our list? Actually, there is. Step 10. Continued to take personal inventory. So it's an ongoing process. And when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. So maybe you've done your list already. Well, there's an opportunity to consider it now. Is there anything recently that's happened? Has anything new come up? Go ahead and jot that down on your list if you need to. And we're going to get to step 10, but basically it says if you need to, talk to somebody about it first. We certainly don't want to spoil later opportunities. We don't want to get it wrong. We want to go to any lengths, but we want to understand what we're doing and how we're doing it. So right now, it's just understanding how this list came to be and getting this list together. Now from here, what I want to do is I want to go to the step book, step 8, in the next video, because I want to see what Bill had to say years later, about step 8 specifically, because that's what I've tried to do, is get to that first half of step 8, because when we get to the second half of step 8 in the big book, it's going to be combined with step 9. And there's a real reason for that. And we'll get into that then. But for today, I truly hope that this has been an eye-opener. This has helped you. This has refocused you so that you are motivated to really crisp up that list and understand it and have it before you go out and make some of these deeper understand these, build in the willingness for apologies. Hey, look, at if you did something today and you owe an apology to a friend or a worker or a wife or kid or something, and it's handed, what, go ahead and make that an apology. These deeper ones that might need a little bit more understanding, how we might go about doing it. Maybe plenty of people have heard us apologize for alcoholism. There's a way to get there, and it's you understanding it first. Well, have a nice day.
If you found this video helpful, please like and subscribe. Ring the bell to be notified when new content is added. Also, you can support the channel 12-Step Guide with Troyo by donating through PayPal to hsworldservice@yahoo.com. In Step 8, we made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. We began the first part of our Step 8 work in Step 4 by making a list of all persons we had harmed. We got to know ourselves more deeply, both the good and the bad, when we disclosed our list in Step 5. Now we continue on to the second half of Step 8, where we further refine our list and develop our willingness to make amends to those we have harmed.